You're driving home. You're sober. You're not carrying. In fact, you're doing nothing wrong. Suddenly, you see flashing lights hit your rearview mirror, and now you have to pull over. Then it happens. The cop walks up to your window and says, "Sit tight and don't move. We're running the dog around your car." The next thing you see the officer walking a German Shepherd around the side of your car. He gets to the back of your car and the German Shepherd sits down. The next thing you hear is, "That's it. We got our hit. We now have probable cause." Suddenly, you're being taken out of the car, you're detained, your trunk is being opened, your bags are on the shoulder of the roadway, and now the cops are literally tearing your car apart. You're standing in the cold, confused, and humiliated. All for what? Absolutely nothing. Welcome to the world of canine searches with police, where one bark can lead to a possible search, a violation of your privacy rights, and sometimes an arrest and a ruining of your criminal record. But today we're flipping the scripts. Today I'm going to show you how to stop cops from abusing drug dog searches and specific examples of people who have fought back and won. We need to start by why all this even matters. Most people think traffic stops are routine. But this isn't just about speeding tickets. This is about how a 5-minute traffic stop can spiral out of control and lead to a possible felony arrest, all because of one dog's behavior. In one Chicago Tribune study, drug-sniffing dogs were wrong 56% of the time. That's right, you have better odds flipping a coin. But if they alert, game over. That alert by a drug dog gives cops probable cause to search your vehicle. And if they find drugs or maybe anything else, now the cops can try to use this against you in a court of law. So let's break down the law here. Under the 4th Amendment to the United States Constitution, each and every one of us is supposed to be protected from unreasonable searches and seizures. But here's the twist. The Supreme Court has ruled in Illinois versus Caballos that a drug sniff during a legal traffic stop is technically not considered a search. In other words, if the cop walks up and he's still checking your license and maybe he's taking his sweet time writing you a ticket, they could keep running that drug dog around your car. But once the time necessary to write that ticket is done, the cops cannot justify continuing to delay that traffic stop and have this dog walking around your car unless they have separate new reasonable suspicion that you're committing a crime. Thankfully, that ruling comes from Rodriguez versus United States. So this is important. This Supreme Court ruling basically says if the cops delays your traffic stop and makes you wait longer than is necessary to give you that ticket, the delay makes the drug dog search unconstitutional. But what about these drug dogs? Do they really know what they're doing? This brings us to the concept of clever Hans.
Did you know that right now, your personal information, your address, your phone number, your relatives, even your property details are being bought and sold online by companies known as data brokers? That's right. Anyone, including corporations and even shady characters, can access your private details. And if you're anything like me, you're probably not comfortable with that. That's exactly why I personally trust and recommend Delete Me, the sponsor of today's video. Delete Me actively removes your personal information from hundreds of data broker sites. They help you protect your privacy and reduce the risk of harassment, identity theft, and intrusive snooping. I signed up and Delete Me identified and removed my private information from dozens of websites. In fact, over 70 pieces of my personal information have been wiped clean from the net so far. It's reassuring to know Delete Me is continually monitoring and protecting my privacy all year round. Don't let data brokers put your privacy or your family's safety at risk. Join me in taking back control of your information. Go to joindeleteme.com/Hampton and use promo code Hampton at checkout to get 20% off your plan. Protect yourself today. That's joindeleteme.com/Hampton. Thanks again, Delete Me, for sponsoring this video. Click the link down in the description to get your data removed from the web and reclaim your privacy with 20% off.
This term comes from a horse from the 1900s that was named Clever Hans. People believed Hans could do math. They'd ask him a math question, and then Hans would actually move his hoof the correct number of times to solve the math equation. But later, scientists discovered he wasn't actually solving math problems. He was responding to the unconscious movements and direction of his owners when the questions were being asked. The handler would tense up whenever Hans was getting close to the answer, and then he would relax once he hit the answer. The scientists learned that's exactly what the horse was responding to. Imagine a dog walking a tightrope between truth and approval. The handler nods, shifts his weight slightly. The dog isn't detecting drugs, it's reading body language, just like clever Hans. Drug-sniffing dogs can do the same thing. They're not flawless machines. Many times they could be reacting to their handlers. And if that handler expects drugs, that drug dog is much more likely to alert, even if there's nothing there. So you don't need drugs in a car in order to be searched. You just need a dog, a leash, and a cop with a hunch. Now let's talk about the case that blew this thing wide open. United States versus Taylor. In 2024, Taylor was pulled over in Knoxville. The cop pulled him over and claimed that he looked nervous because he was coming back from a job interview, and he thought it looked suspicious that he had air fresheners near the gear shift. So the female officer called in a canine to come and try to search the car while she was continuing to write him a ticket. They came, they brought the canine around the car and performed the search, and they found no drugs. But they did rip his car apart and they found a gun in the trunk. But because Taylor was already a felon, when they found that gun, they ended up arresting him anyway because now they had a felon in possession charge. Taylor and his lawyer argued this case very hard. They argued there was no reasonable suspicion. The stop was already over and it should be ruled unconstitutional. Thankfully, the Sixth Circuit agreed. They threw out the evidence and the conviction. So what do we know now? If your stop is prolonged, and there's no real reasonable suspicion, if the cops go ahead and perform that canine search anyway, the whole thing can be thrown out. And that's not the only case. In United States versus Bentley, the Sixth Circuit ruled that dog alerts aren't a blank check to search whatever they want. Closed containers found in the trunk still required a warrant. In People versus Kelly, a California appellate court ruled a dog sniff search was unconstitutional because once again, the cops prolonged the traffic stop trying to get that drug dog out there when the time to write the ticket was over. Oh, and in U.S. versus Brown, the Eighth Circuit ruled that a drug dog search was going to be thrown out in court because it was exposed to the court that that particular dog's reliability was weak and could not be relied upon in court. And finally, in Commonwealth versus Overmeyer, a Pennsylvania court ruled that because it was learned that this particular dog's false positive rate was so high, the court said, no, this is not scientifically reliable and it cannot be relied upon in order to establish that probable cause for a search. Each one of these cases clearly chips away at the belief that drug dogs are either always perfect or can be relied upon, or that cops are justified in their search. Always check your state laws for your situation, but the good news is many state courts are getting tired of bogus dog alerts. So we've talked about traffic stops, but what if the cop and his dog shows up at your house? Picture this. You hear a knock at your front door. You look through the peephole and you see two officers standing there with a canine on your front porch. You never called them. You never consented. But supposedly now one sniff from a drug dog allows them to turn your living room into a crime scene? Can cops walk a dog past your front door and call it an alert? Well, turns out they've tried, and courts have weighed in. In Florida versus Jardines, the Supreme Court ruled that bringing a drug-sniffing dog onto your front porch and trying to use it to get into your house is a Fourth Amendment violation. Your porch is part of your private property. It's part of your curtilage, which has as much protection as the inside of your house. So cops can't just show up with a dog on your front porch and start searching around like it's public property. The cops are going to have a warrant. So if they didn't have a warrant and the dog is on your front porch, it's an illegal search and you don't have to answer the door. Now, some police departments have even tried this strategy with drug dogs at apartment buildings. Courts are still split on whether or not that's a violation of your privacy rights, but I can tell you most courts have ruled that common areas in an apartment complex don't just give cops a free pass to use drug dogs. No warrant, no probable cause, no drug dog search allowed, whether it's your home or an apartment complex. So what do you do if cops show up at your front door with a drug dog? Well, number one, if they knock on your front door, that's nothing more than a knock and talk. You don't even have to answer the door. Now, if you persist on talking to the police, I would still keep a barrier between you and the cops at the front door. And I would still tell the officers very clearly, "Officer, I do not consent to a search of my home. And unless you have a warrant, I demand that you leave my property. If the officers still try to force their way into your house, you can exercise your right to remain silent. You can make it clear that you do not consent to a search and try to record everything that's going on. Pro tip here, if the cops actually do leave and come back with a warrant, make note. Try to memorialize and record when the cops supposedly had this alert with the drug dog, because that illegal alert could end up invalidating the warrant they were relying upon later when you go to court. So let's get practical here. If you're pulled over on the side of the road and a drug dog gets involved, here's what you should think about doing. Number one, stay calm and do not make any sudden movements. The number one way I see cops justifying getting you out of your car and now trying to treat you and think that they have reasonable suspicion to believe you're hiding drugs or doing other things is to claim you made furtive movements. He reached up underneath his seat, or I thought he was looking nervous. He seemed very sweaty, and he sounded like somebody to me who might be hiding something. Instead, I would talk slowly. I would keep my voice down. I would keep my hands on the steering wheel. Do not make any sudden movements so that they cannot try to trick you into using your nervousness against you. Number two, say very clearly, officer, I do not consent to any searches. Number three, if the officer seems to be taking a bit of time to write your ticket, or they've gone back, and as they come back to you and they write the ticket, they start asking you a bunch of extra questions, there is absolutely nothing wrong with you saying, officer, excuse me, am I free to go or am I being detained? And I would really encourage you to make sure and ask this question as soon as possible after either after the ticket has been handed to you or the warning has been handed to you. It's really important that you ask that question so that you can make sure and memorialize when that traffic stop is over so that you can make sure he doesn't try to hold you any longer for a drug dog to arrive. Now, if the cop holds you on the side of the road for an extended period of time waiting for the drug dog to show up, and you know that this is an illegal search, whatever you do, do not interfere physically with the officer. If you get angry and you try to drive off, you're going to get charged with evading arrest, a new crime that even if your other charge could be thrown out, now you're going to be sitting there charged with a new crime they may be able to use against you. So do not interfere physically. Instead, what I would encourage you to do is tell the officer, officer, I do not consent to this search. I demand that you do not search my vehicle. And I would make that very clear because, and if you can, record this so that way you're able to use your video recording in court to show that he violated your Fourth Amendment rights. Number five, record everything. Get timestamps. Look, everything you can. Show on the video recording how long it took them to be able to do all of these things. Plus, you'll find it interesting. You can compare your recording to the body camera recording. Sometimes what's listed on there, you don't have all the footage from the officer. And if you have your recording taking place the entire time, you're going to be able to protect yourself. You may not always be able to stop a cop from making an illegal search on you on the side of the road, but you can stop him in court, where it really matters, if you assert your rights and you act smart under the situation. So what if cops do violate your rights during that drug dog search and you want to fight back afterwards? What steps can you take to fight back and stop the cops? Number one, get all the body camera footage and all the dash cam footage and request it immediately. I know some of these police departments want to charge you a bunch of money to make the request. Others will only make it available for a short period of time. So don't delay on this. It's important to be able to show what actually happened and compare it to the recording you hopefully have. Number two, get the canines training and certification records. This is critical. If the dog is unreliable, has a very high false positive rate, this is one of the best ways to get a drug dog search thrown out in court. Number three, make sure you file a motion to suppress. This is the specific legal document that allows you to get in front of the judge and to be able to argue that this actual search was not only illegal, but any of the evidence obtained as a result of that search should be thrown out in court. And finally, file a complaint against the PD. If it turns out that the PD continues to use a drug dog that has very high false positive rates or was not trained properly, it's important that you file that specific complaint and make it aware of the fact that they're continuing to use this and consult a potential civil rights attorney, because depending on your state or how all of the actual facts fell into place here, you might have a separate cause of action against the police department for violating your rights. Here's the reality. Most people don't fight back in court for these situations. And that's why bad police departments continue to get away with using untrained and unreliable drug dog searches. This isn't just about you and I. It's about everyone knowing what to do. When an officer comes to your car door and says, "Hold tight, I'm running the drug dog," Now you know what the law says. Now you know the tactics the cops are going to use, and now you know how to respond. So if it ever happens to you, you won't have to panic. You can take a deep breath and you can say, "Officer, I do not consent to a search. Am I free to leave?" And if the cops cross the line, you'll have the tools ready to push back, not only on the side of the road, but also in the courtroom. Now, we just covered how to protect yourself during drug dog searches. But what if cops pull you over and now they demand to see your gun? What do you say? Do you have to let them search? Check out this next video where I break down 5 tips whenever cops want to see your guns. See you over there.